Hi, my name is Dave Poland. I'd like to welcome you to Portland Film Beat. Tonight, my guest is Stephen Poole. He's a writer, director of photography, and editor. He's from Portland, Oregon originally. He's college educated and self-taught in many aspects of the film production, and his film work dates back to the late 1990s. For the last 3 years, Stephen has been pursuing a career in film writing, shooting, and editing. And tonight we're going to talk about his film, his new one that he's actually still working on, called Runaway Highway. So, welcome aboard, Stephen. I'm glad you're here.
It's awesome to be
here.
So
let's start with, where did you get your training?
Well, I went to Clackamas Community College, and it's interesting. I actually went there 2 different periods, and the first time I went there was one film class where pretty much you took a script from the last class, and they were like, okay, just take this and go make a movie. There was no equipment or anything.
They didn't have you write your own script?
Well, we would use a script from like the winter screenwriting class, and then they would just have a class in the spring. But it was pretty much just like, go find a camera somewhere and make your movie. And so it was fun, but it was very, it was obvious that they didn't have much of a program there yet. And I left for a couple years, and then I was thinking about going back to school, and I looked back into Clackamas, and all of a sudden they had this big sophisticated digital media program with
really?
Journalism, film production, film studies, sound, all this stuff. And I was like, well, I may as well go back to where I came from. I know a lot of the people there, and yeah, I went back and I went through their digital media program, learned so many things. When I first went in there, I'm like, I don't know what an XLR cable is, or what is what is phantom sound? Is that like audio they use in horror films? I don't. Okay. And so it was a great experience.
Right. And so, how many films have you made?
Oh, I probably ballpark it about 12, 13 short films.
Is that right?
This is my first feature.
Okay.
Yeah, films ranging from like 10 minutes to 30.
And how long is Runaway Highway going to be finished?
Well, the script is 114 pages, so
about 114 minutes.
Yeah, around 2 hours, maybe just a hair under.
Wow. And how long did it take you to write that?
Honestly, probably about 6 weeks. Once I started going, I just didn't stop.
So I'll ask you some other questions. So since we're talking about the film, what first got you? Where did the premise for the film Runaway Highway come from?
It actually started, I was at work. I work at a movie theater, and I was just checking some of the individual auditoriums, and I walked in on the film Wild, the Reese Witherspoon movie that came out. Never actually watched it all the way through. I just captured little moments, and I got caught one day. I just got caught by the idea of someone going on that big personal journey by themselves. And I walked in on a scene where she was talking to another woman, and I was like, I just love that idea of going on your own personal journey, but encountering all these different people along the way that help you get to where you need to go, and kind of showing how similar we are in so many ways, even though we may look different or feel different or have different things going on.
And since we're talking about it, tell us the premise of Runaway Highway.
All right. The film follows a woman in her 20s named Belle, who, when the film starts, her younger sister Brianna has just recently committed suicide.
Oh no.
She suffered bipolar disorder, and they came from a really affluent family that was very, very focused on status, and very much like, well, you know, as long as we keep her medicated and keep her quiet, we don't have to worry about it. So she grew up in a very unhappy home, and that's, you know, when you grow up and you've already got a disorder and you feel generally kind of unwanted by family and friends, you know, it can lead you to do something like that. And the film begins just days after her sister's taken her own life, and Belle, who has dedicated her whole life to her sister, she's practically sacrificed her own life to make her feel like there's somebody in the world that loves her.
Okay.
And the film opens the day before Brianna's planned memorial, and they have her cremated ashes there, and Belle asks, like, can I just have one last moment with my sister by myself? I was with her when she died. Can I just have this one last moment? And they let her have her sister's ashes. She takes off, puts them into her own little canister, replaces the ashes with fake ashes, brings it back to the funeral director, and she takes off on the highway with her sister's ashes.
Oh, okay.
And because she's so angry with her family, and she just dreads the idea of all these people getting together. And
so that said, was there something in your life, or was there films that you've watched that helped you come up with the idea of the story? Or did you just come up with it and just start writing? And
yeah, it really
it
kind of came together bit by bit. It kind of just went from someone going on a personal journey on the road to adding that dynamic of it being two sisters, and just bit by bit it kind of came together. And it's funny because I'm actually an only child and a guy, and I got hooked in on writing a script about sisterly love was the big focus, and that's the question I get more than anything else.
How did you come up with that?
How'd you come up with that, and where did you get the knowledge? You don't even have a sibling of any kind.
So tell us the appeal you think that Runaway Highway will have for audiences.
Well, it definitely, I feel like there's a lot of films out there that are obviously kind of concoctions of movies that have been made millions of times in the past, and I feel like there's so many movies made now that don't really have a really strong emotional impact. There's not a whole lot of catharsis, and I think that's really important in film, and this definitely has it, because you get to experience this one character's journey, not just to have to accept the reality of her sister's death and having to learn to say goodbye, but she has to come to terms with, what am I going to do with the rest of my life now?
Okay.
I've given my life to my sister, now suddenly I have to make my own life for myself.
We're going to watch the trailer in just a minute here.
Awesome.
But you're still shooting the film, correct?
Yes, we're roughly midway through shooting.
Right. How many shoot days do you think you have on it?
I believe we have 10, and I'm actually shooting tomorrow is day 5, so we're like right on the cusp of being right in the middle.
So I've watched the trailer, but when we watched the trailer, these two girls are on the highway.
Yes.
And it was a hot day, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, no, it was last Sunday. It was
like
about
96?
90. It was mid-90s out there.
You know, but they don't look. You know, usually actresses look real sweaty and stuff. You must have had a good makeup crew or something with you, because it doesn't look like it. When you see them, I knew what day you shot it, and I knew it was hot out, so that's why I can ask.
Exactly.
That. But it doesn't look that hot.
Yeah, and they
I
actually.
mean, it looks hot, but not that hot.
Yeah, and all my actresses, they all have their own little makeup thing, and they're like, don't worry, in case you need some makeup, I brought a makeup kit, so if you need to touch up, it's like, oh, don't worry about it, I already brought mine too.
They're all taking care of themselves.
Yeah,
isn't that good?
so you know, when we get in between scenes, they're like, can I just have 5 minutes? I need to just fix this up a little bit. Okay. So yeah, they were really excited about that. Like, oh, I can do all my own makeup. I don't need help with that.
Okay,
so
I'm going to ask you one more question, then we're going to go to the trailer.
Perfect.
What first got you interested in film?
I was like 10, I think, and our family borrowed a camcorder from one of my dad's friends.
Big VHS
yeah,
boxes?
it's like 10-pound thing that gives you like shoulder cramps after a while. And my dad filmed like a 20-second thing of me, just like, "Hi, I'm Steve. How's it going?" And then you know we took the VHS out because it was that long ago, put it into the VCR, and I remember just sitting there watching myself, like, "Oh my God, I'm on television.
So
I'm a movie star."
Do you appear in your own films?
When I first started doing film, I did it a little bit.
I always
but now,
appear in mine. I always write a part for me.
I've kind of been interested in kind of doing that sort of Hitchcock thing where you just see me maybe walking through in the background at some point. And I may do that more in the future, but as of recent, I've been just staying behind the camera the whole time.
Right. And so after the VHS, you got a little older. Was that a dream to have that, and then went to college and pursued it? Or did you do other stuff in high school and things like that?
Yeah, I always wanted to be just a writer. And then when I kind of started thinking about moving into film, I realized, well, you know, you can still be a writer and have an everyday job. And in high school, I took some media communications classes. We learned how to use cameras and edit on a computer. When I first edited my own stuff, when I was like a teenager, I just had 2 VCRs hooked up to each other.
Yeah, that was complicated.
Back in the day.
That was complicated.
And yeah, so it was always something I did for fun with friends, and there was always something in the back of my mind, like maybe I could pursue this more seriously. And I went through a phase where, you know, in my mid-20s, and I didn't really know what I was doing with my life, and I was contemplating, like, do I want to do film? And then, like, for 2 weeks, I was like, maybe I should go into nursing. And then I'm like, are you kidding me? No. And once I went back to school, it was like just with each successive term, I just got more and more into it.
Going back to Clackamas Community College, since it was a more advanced program, it probably got you more interested.
Oh yeah, definitely. They brought out all these cameras and like, this is a DSLR camera, and I'm like, it's a what now? What's just all these like amazing things, and I'm used to shooting on like a little, you know, like home movie camera that you film like your Christmas morning
right to
with.
The CD,
and then they handed it to me, and I'm like, wait, you can focus this thing? And getting to see things like 10 times more clear. Like the moment I held one of those, I was like, oh my God, I have to own one of these.
Yeah,
and I went out and got one.
It got you hooked, great. You know, actually, we're going to take a break right now, and we're going to watch the trailer for Runaway Highway, and we'll be right back.
Hey, how's it going out here?
Who are you?
It's nice to meet you.
You just left me.
What? Who?
We were going to elope together, and he was being such a jerk about where we were going, and I asked to get out of the car. I was just trying to make a point, but like after he let me out, he just sped off and he hasn't come back.
What?
And he was making fun of the way I looked. I mean, he said I look ridiculous, and I know. I just wanted to look special for the journey. For what I thought I was gonna be a new chapter in my life. For the rest of my life, you know?
I'm so sorry.
It's okay, I'll be fine. It's just going from being so ecstatic to being abandoned in the middle of nowhere, it just sucks. And fine, you know, he's right. I mean, I look stupid. Look at me. It looks like something a space whore would wear.
No, you look beautiful. I noticed you from way up the road, and I don't even like dresses or women. Well, I don't have sex with women. I don't. Look, it's really hot out here, and it's been a really long day. My car is just a couple miles up the road. I just went and got a gas tank. I forgot mine. Flash of brilliance on my part, but just tag along with me, and we will figure out a way to get you home. Okay?
Okay.
That was fun to watch. You know, when I see it again, it does look like it's hot out, but not
Yeah,
that hot.
it was, and we're out in the open, so there's no tree coverage. But it was a really great kind of scenario because
So this girl's
the lead-
boyfriend dumped her?
Yeah.
Is that Belle?
The
other one,
the girl who's sitting, that's Genevieve, one of the many people that Belle meets along the way.
Okay.
And Belle's character is the one that's walking along the road and meets her. And
Okay.
the lead into that scene is her car broke down and she's had to walk like 20 miles to get a thing of gas. So she's supposed to look really worn out. And that's why when she walks up, just kind of like,
Okay,
hey, how's it
yeah.
going? Like, she doesn't want to help this person, but she's like, if I walk by her, I'm going to hate myself for the rest of the day.
Okay, right. So how do you work with the actors?
I have a very apparently interesting approach. That's what my actors tell me. I'm very free flowing with the actors I work with. I always, whenever we show up, I'm always like, if you have any ideas, make sure to throw them at me, because I've heard a lot of directors are very, very possessive of their work, and if you have one idea, they're just like, no, you got to do it this way every time. And
So yeah, I think it's good that because it frees up the actors to
yeah.
give their best performance.
And I'm totally not an actor. I'm a technical behind the camera thing. And I'm a writer, so I've got that creative vision, but I still don't see it the way that an actor does. And I've had so many actors say, hey, Steve, can we tweak this thing a little bit?
It's
And they
gotta
do,
roll
and
off
it
their tongue.
completely makes it. I've had like scenes in a movie where one little change that someone suggested like made the scene 3 times better. And I'm like, well, thank you for being here.
Right, absolutely.
So it's
absolutely.
really great learning things from actors
Tell
that
us who
way
the names
too.
of those actresses are.
Oh,
The main characters in it.
The main characters. The main character is Belle, and she's played by Carrie Spindler, who is amazing actress. And I know she's got a lot of background. I know she's studied in Europe. She went to college on the East Coast, and I worked with her a couple of years ago, and she was really great. And she was the only person that, when I finished writing the script, I was like, I want you for my lead.
Okay.
And the next significant character is her sister Brianna. The girl playing her name's Catherine Kimberly. And I haven't worked with her before, but I noticed the moment we met that things just clicked, and she was so like, I want this character, please let me be this character. And she's been great.
Can you tell us who the camera people and some of the crew members are?
We have a remarkably small crew because it's a no-budget film, and
Just Clint Eastwood has a real small crew.
Yeah.
He works with the same people all the time.
pretty much the crew is me and one other person who works as this. I pretty much have a sound man on with us.
Okay,
So
that's
I'm
good.
capturing video and they're capturing sound. And so much of the shooting is just us in one car driving out to the middle of nowhere, so we pretty much can only fit 4 people into a car on a given shoot.
So what kind of camera are you using? Are you using a DSLR?
I do. I have a Canon 60D DSLR. It's got that flip out screen that is so important to have. I like to cram into little corners, and you got to be able to flip that around sometimes and know where
Sometimes
you're
having
at.
a small camera like that, you can only shoot certain scenes because you have to fit in the corner.
Yeah. Fortunately, this is a pretty wide open film, but I've had to like cram into bushes and shoot out of them, and it's sometimes you can't be right behind the camera. You got to just have that screen flipped out.
So you're editing it as well, then, I take it.
Yes, and yeah, that one scene that we saw, that's the first bit that I edited on, and that was really quick. Like, there's no color correction on that or anything. That's the raw footage and the audio that I placed on. So,
how many other actors are in it then, just besides these 2 girls?
I believe we have 10 actors total. There's 4 different characters that Belle meets like along her journey.
Okay.
There's a flashback scene where we see Belle as a young child speaking with her mother, and her mom's telling her, well, we've just discovered your sister's got this bipolar disorder, and you get to see that kind of distant dynamic when they're as children, or when she's a child.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's the bulk of the cast.
Right. So moving on, what are your strengths as a filmmaker? And then tell us, what are your weaknesses?
My strengths as a filmmaker, I think more than anything else is I really try to be extremely prepared for shoots.
Oh, so you come up with a shot list and everything?
Oh yeah, no,
I'm proud
I
of
come
you
up
for
with
that.
that stuff.
Let me tell you something, because then when things don't go right, you at least have thought it through and can come up with a plan B really quickly.
Yeah. And I don't even really, like, I spend a lot of time making out this big detailed shot list, but I remember so much of it that I only have to address it like 2 or 3 times in a scene. And that just makes, because I like to work really quickly. Not for the sake of rushing, but for the sake of maintaining a flow. And when you're, going through a take and then you get set up to immediately do another take, your actors aren't falling out of character.
Right.
Like, we need 10 minutes to hold off, and the actor's like, okay, well, I got to sit here and stay in character and get it back again.
I learned the importance of a shot list when my wife and I shot a 10-minute short in 3 hours. And we moved the camera 4 times. But I can't explain it, but it took us 2 hours to do the shot list, but it was so worth it. It was just so worth it. Okay, so what's your weakness? You got to tell us. You got to have a weakness as a filmmaker.
My weakness, unfortunately, is I'm a little bit too much of a nice guy, and
oh really?
Sometimes I've gotten a lot better about it. This is a weakness that's gotten a little bit less over time as I've become more kind of as I've understood the structure of a shoot better. But when I would first start filming, and when you're first starting, you don't really know all the things, and an actor would say like, well, can I just do it this way? And even if I didn't want it, I'd just be like, okay, yeah, we'll just do it that way. And fortunately on this project, because my actors are so engaged, pretty much every idea they throw at me, I don't even have to think about it. I'm like, that's awesome. And usually if I get an idea thrown at me, I'm like, well, let's just try it both ways. And then it's there.
Good for you. Actually, do it both ways and then see what it looks like in the edit.
Yeah.
Because it's actually the edited film that counts.
Yeah, and there's been
you
times...
never know how it'll edit together. When it cuts together better the way they wanted it.
And there's been times where I've been like, that's awesome, let's just do it that way. And then I go and edit it, and I'm like, this didn't quite work out the way I thought it was. And that always is a possibility.
And if you shot it both ways, then you've got choices to make.
Exactly.
To make the film better.
You can go 2 different ways.
What is your favorite part of filmmaking then?
My favorite part of filmmaking, honestly, I
Writing,
love
shooting,
I love all the pre-production stuff where having to come up with the story and get it all structured properly. I love coming up with a shot list because, I've watched this movie like 30 times in my head before I even actually started shooting it.
A little bit on set too.
Yeah, and so kind of watching it and getting the images through my head, I'm like, okay, so I know I want this type of shot to immediately follow this type of shot, and it makes it so much easier to set up your shot list. Like, you're just kind of doing it as you're thinking it out,
right?
And it makes it so much easier. And then you get on set and you're ready.
So, what's your least favorite thing about shooting, movie making, filmmaking?
Ooh, least favorite thing.
I'll let you think about that one.
Yeah.
So, what is your favorite screenplay?
Ooh, favorite screenplay. I don't have a definite answer for that. I do love the screenplay for the movie The Sting, 1973.
Yeah.
It's an incredibly creative film. It's got great dialogue. It's got great characters. It's got all that. I haven't actually read the script myself personally, but I feel like if I sat down and read that, it would be incredibly entertaining to read.
Okay. So have you written any other screenplays that you're going to be working on in the future? You're working on anything
Ooh, I have like 6 or 7
in the works?
that will be feature-length screenplays that are all like 2/3 done. You get this drive, and then you get partway through, and you realize, I really don't want to shoot this right now, but I got all the notes. It's there, but I want to shoot something
you can
right
come back
now.
to it 2 years later and
yeah.
still be there. That's the thing about films, that they're timeless.
Yeah, and I've got all the stuff there ready for me to come back whenever I want to.
Do you have a favorite director, A-list director?
Favorite A-list director? I really love, and I think maybe because I think he's the most underrated director ever, and that's Billy Wilder, who did like, I mean, I can't even name all the great movies he's done, like Sunset Boulevard, Double Indemnity.
Older films.
Yeah,
Billy Wilder,
Some Like
yeah.
It Hot, all that stuff. Yeah, I'm a super big fan, I think,
Older
of
films
older
used
films.
to, the scenes lasted longer. They took time to build scenes and characters.
Yeah.
And the films were actually longer too. So
Yeah, and the shots they used were longer.
are you
'cause
doing?
they
Do you do
structured
that with this film?
as far as like just having longer shots?
Yeah. Longer scenes, because a lot
Longer
of times scenes are
scenes.
2 or 3 minutes
Yeah,
long. and
I
that's
have.
it.
I do have one scene in the middle. I call it my Quentin Tarantino scene. That's what I call it if it's like a scene of dialogue that's like 15 minutes long, right in the middle of the film. When Belle meets this one particular guy along the road, who actually he dubs the phrase "Runaway Highway," because the idea is that the highway they're on leads out of the city they come from. It's essentially like the equivalent of like I-5 to Portland. It's like if you want to get to anywhere, you kind of go that way first, and it's.
Okay.
This road where all these people that are either running away from home or looking for new opportunities, this is the highway that they go down.
What is your favorite film?
My favorite film, and all my friends make fun of me for it, my favorite film is Tootsie.
Oh, that's all right. That's a good film.
I love that movie. I can watch it. It gets me out of a good mood. It's got great comedy. It's got a great cast. And it's about
actually,
actors.
I read a thing about
It's
there's
about
like
actors.
6 subplots in that film.
Yeah, and it's like it's Sidney Pollack's first time directing a comedy, and he was just like, I can't do this. I'm a serious filmmaker.
Right.
And they
Okay.
sucked him in.
So, is there a common type of film genre that you relate to the most? I know you talked about comedy. and
Yeah,
Billy Wilder, but
anything realistic. I love a movie, so probably comedies and dramas mostly. Anything where I can watch the movie and think, that could happen to me someday. That could happen to somebody I know. I'm
and
kind
this
of
film seems like it could.
yeah. This is definitely got a realistic aspect, and I'm one of those oddballs who I can't really get into the fantasy stuff. I can't get into. I mean, I think they're okay, but I can't really get into the Harry Potter and the Lord
Well,
of the
what
Rings
thing
stuff. I
about
can't
is
quite get
that
into it.
The fantasy and science fiction now has gotten to be where it's all about the graphics and the computer imagery
Yeah.
and the character. There's not that much character development in it.
Yeah, there's
And
a
I think
definite
if
lack
they-
of that.
There'd be more character stuff in it. It makes the films so much better.
Yeah, and I spend so much time structuring because I'm like, well, these two people are going to meet. There's got to be a reason why. They got to have a background that's going to make. And there's a lot of crossover.
There's coincidences
in my
films,
film.
but sometimes they're absurd.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, what A-list actor and then again, what A-list actress would you like to direct someday?
Oh, I would actually like to direct them in a movie together, probably a romantic comedy. And that's Paul Rudd and Jennifer Lawrence.
Oh, really?
I would direct that movie for free.
I don't think they've been in a movie together
I
yet.
don't think they have either. And like, I
I think it would be a good pairing, though.
Yeah.
Just based on the both.
and
of
I
their-
don't know. So something about Paul Rudd. I love the guy. And yeah, I just feel like they would go really well together.
Okay, so what do you consider the elements of a good film, and then again, a great film?
Ooh, I think for a great film as opposed to a good film, I think there's got to be serious depth. Meaning like it can't just be this character meets this character, then something happens and then it's done. There's got to be this character meets this character, and then there's this character who maybe doesn't like. When I think of like a great movie that's structured that way, I think of like the movie Heat. The mid-'90s film, and there's these characters that they have their own moments and you don't know who they are. Then all of a sudden they leap into the main part of the story, and you've got the cop side and the criminal side, and there's so many, and they all
You know what?
come
That's
together.
a film I can watch over again.
Yeah, I've seen it probably 20
Yeah.
plus times.
Right. It's actually a great film.
Yeah.
So, right now, take your time and talk right to the camera. Tell people or audience members out there what you think they should do to get started in the filmmaking.
Oh, well, I think my my ideas are very similar to a lot of people I've spoken to, and that is if you're trying to get into it, get your hands on some equipment. It doesn't have to be great, and just start practicing with the equipment. Get to know a camera. 4 years ago at this time, I had no clue how to do cinematography. I'd watch Hollywood movies and think, how do they make those shots look so good? And I went out there
Composition.
I went out there and started practicing, and bit by bit I started noticing, like, that shot actually looks really good.
Right.
Like 1 out of every 5 was okay, and then it got a little bit, and I started realizing kind of how angles work, and because I learned the basics going to school.
So with the DSLR, do you change lenses to like the 45 and the zoom, or do you basically, because of low budget, have to use one lens?
Yeah, I have 2 lenses. I just recently got an L series lens, which
Okay.
this is the first film that I'm using that for, and it's amazing the difference that it's made for my film. And when I first started out in school, I got to use that on like one film. So I had this really great looking first film, and then I had to shoot other stuff with a slightly cheaper lens. I'm like, I got to get that L series back. You got to keep each film, you want it to be a little bit more better and a little better.
Okay. So do you move the camera at all? Do you have a Steadicam? One of those? They have new things now that aren't Steadicams.
I am. Yeah, I had a chance to use a Steadicam a few times, and I'm kind of big on handheld stuff, especially doing kind of more realistic
Right.
work. And
It brings you into the film a little bit.
Yeah, and I like moving around. I have this like little kind of dance walk, this kind of crab walk thing I do that manages to keep my body level if I'm like panning around somebody. When you don't have a budget, one of the benefits is you learn how to do a lot of things. Like you're like, okay, I don't have a like $1,000 Steadicam, so how am I going to do
Or
this?
a Steadicam operator for
Yeah,
that much.
it's just me and my camera. How am I going to, I can't just walk with it because then you do this.
Right.
And, I learned so many things just by doing that. Just like not having like, oh, well, here's some money, that'll fix the problem.
Sometimes you need money, but sometimes throwing money at a problem doesn't fix the problem. That's for sure.
Exactly.
So where do you hope to see yourself in 5 years?
5 years? Well, I definitely like to be doing what I'm doing now, just at a slightly higher level.
Getting paid for it, maybe.
Yeah, and this being my first feature, and I'm promoting it astronomically more than anything I've done in the past. And so, and I'm planning on doing a pretty good size premiere for it when it's done, and I'm hoping that'll get me some visuals. And I just like doing
When
the
do you
work.
think it'll premiere?
I'm hoping to have the whole thing done by like start of August. We're hoping to have it finished shooting by the end of June, and so hopefully sometime August.
Right. So, thank you for tuning in to Portland Film Beat. It's time for us to wrap this up. I want to thank Stephen for being here and talking about his film, Runaway Highway. I want to thank the executive producer, which is my wife, Carol. I want to thank our assistant producers, who are Phil and Sue Holmes. Sorry about that, Phil and Sue. I forgot their names. I want to thank Krista and Christo down here at TVC TV. They've helped me very much. And until next time on Portland Film Beat, shoot for the silver screen.